Faces of Mine by Brian Davey. Thoughtless, I try and think. Do you feel the pain? Understanding becomes irrational, perceived by many to be insane. Emotions scarred so deep, happiness being just a myth, a noble piece of society, no matter which group you're with. Cracked mirrors gaze at me, crooked reflections of mine. Which reflection is the real me? Too many faces, too hard to find. So thoughtless, here I sit and think, paying no attention to this place. For each time you look at me, you see the same man, but a different face. One of the central techniques in this poem is the usage of rhyme and rhythm in creating an atmosphere of despair and confusion, which then portrays the theme of loss of identity. Every two lines are actually one sentence separated by a comma, and the ending of each sentence rhymes with the one after, such as in "Do you feel the pain?" and "perceived by many to be insane." Being implemented throughout the entire poem enhances its fluidity and smooth rhythm. This fluidity lends itself to a flowing image of drifting, floating, which in the context of the poem creates a sense of purposelessness, of aimless wandering going in no direction, being lost and confused. The smoothness in this case is not soothing, but rather disorientating, the idea of being lost in a running thought that holds no resolution. On the note of resolution, the similar lines from the beginning, "Thoughtless I try and think," and the line near the ending, "So thoughtless here I sit and think," creates a circular structure of the entire poem, sort of symbolizing how his thought process runs in a complete circle and he gets back to where he started. This emphasizes the persona's dilemma of being stuck in a state of dissociation. No matter how hard he tries, he's reached a stagnant point that in the end, he still doesn't have an answer of which reflection is the real him, of which of his faces is his, of who is he. Then there is the implication of, is it even possible for someone to piece themselves back together? When you have lost your identity, when you have been broken, are you truly able to heal, or do cracked mirrors just stay broken? When I was first looking for poems, the themes I centered my research around were mainly to do with identity and confusion. Personally, I wanted to find a poem that I could relate to, that can capture the emotion of what it feels like being confused about yourself. Not just the question of who am I, but what am I? How am I? Why am I? We've all had our struggles throughout our lives, and I think mine have always been the internal kind. Honestly, a lot of the time, I am the persona in the poem, trying to identify my real self amongst broken reflections, bisected by conflicting parts of myself. For most of my life, I felt like I'm an in-between. Between cultures, between countries, between siblings, and now in the throes of teenage years, between generations, between adolescence, and many others. It is not unlike walking a fine line between two worlds, and the walking of the line feels like treading on ice, worrying about the possibility that I don't have an identity as a whole at all. Reading this poem really strikes a chord in me, really grasps the feeling of dissociative hopelessness, and maybe one day I'll find reconciliation, but who knows?